answers are inside. Yeah, I am a 21st century superhuman. Now is the time. Come on everyone, let's celebrate. We are the children of the sun. I can see you when I look into your eyes. We are the same, we are light, yeah, we are one. Here now, hear my ancient prayer and sing along. We are awakening as one. And we can make a difference. Yeah, we can be the change it takes to make the world.
Hi there, I'm Cary Ellis, author of 21st Century Superhuman, and this is our 21st Century Superhuman show. Today I have with me Bret Warshawsky from Noomap, which is an amazing new thought process, potentially including a software, but a lot of new ways of doing things that are part of this awakening journey that's happening on the planet, offering us tools and resources to help us actualize more of the abundance of who we are as beings, as individuals, as collectives. So, Bret, hello. Thank you for being here with me today.
Hey, Cary. It's great to be here. I love getting together with you and sharing. It really helps keep up my energy and inspiration, so thank you.
It's awesome. You're a great visionary, and I really love the way you express these things that you guys are part of. So you really are part of a team, correct? You want to tell us a little bit about that team?
Yeah, there's a small, well, it's a very large community actually, but Noomap is being held by three and now a fourth person coming onto the sort of core team, for lack of a more efficient word. So there's been three of us the past couple of years holding space and concentrating on the mission we're on a 24/7 type of basis. But we're also part of other communities, which I'll share as we start to talk. One called United Earth and one called the Meestern Foundation here in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And of course, like yourself, we're connected and fractally with a lot of different communities and networks as we're all, connecting into this new emergent synergistic network, we call it. But I'm
getting chills as you're talking. I just love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun. It's good stuff happening.
Tell us a little bit, is it Chris who kind of stepped out of conventional system as a pretty bright guy and decided to change his course because he saw the need on planet Earth?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about Chris Larcombe and Andrea Harding, who has become my wife through this journey of Noomap. So it's been a life journey and a quest. We do have a software as part of our community, but we're not a traditional startup or anything like that. I think we're probably more like an integral community or integral Renaissance artist or something like that. So we don't focus on just delivering something. We're here to learn and live and love. So that's what it's all about. So I'll share briefly a little bit about Chris and Andrea. But first I'm going to read something. A guy on my Facebook posted yesterday a statement that I thought really summed up what our journey has been about this far. And his name is, hopefully I pronounce it right, Harun Rabbani, Harun, and his last name Rabbani, Rabbani. And he posted a quote of his here. It says, "A visionary leader is the person who sees the unfolding of a future story that others, at best, merely dream of. They become the story through intention, action, and devotion to a new reality." And I love that because that's kind of been our story. We've been holding an intention for a few years. We take action, and we are completely devoted to co-creating new realities. I would make it plural, but that's what we're about. And Chris is 29, and he was 2 years into a PhD for something related to artificial intelligence, and his master's was in adaptive and evolutionary systems. So when he was about 26, I believe, or 25, 2 years into that PhD, he sort of had some awakenings through the use of psychedelics and downloading a bunch of documentaries online, like the Zeitgeist and the Venus Project and all that. And because he was into systems theory and evolutionary systems and artificial intelligence and cybernetics and things like that, he was inspired to try to create a meta system that would connect all of the resource-based type of platforms like Couchsurfing and FreeCycle. And he thought, why are they all in silos in different databases, in different websites? Why don't we have a system that connects them all? Because we generally have the beginnings already of a gift economy and a resource-based economy with us. It's just that they're not really talking to each other, and it's not agile and easy to use them all together as a lifestyle, rather than just one option when I need a couch or one option when I'm looking to find a used item of some kind or to give something away. So that was his impetus and his inspiration, and he started creating something called OuiShare and Serbi, a scalable resource-based economy. And his beautiful leap of conception and idea was to use something called a holon as part of the database structure. And a holon is a whole and a part simultaneously. It's fractal in its nature. I'm not going to get too far into the details because we'll have Chris and Andrea and our new teammate Nico come on with you sometime to get really deep into the tech part. That's not my specialty or my gift as of yet. But his major leap was using this interface and this database based on holons. It's also very feminine, circular, and it's also got a masculine side. So it's very interactive in that sense. And being one of the first users of the prototype we have called Noomap, based on the noosphere, so it's Noomap. The OuiShare and Serbi became Noomap. Noos means mind, and it's the thinking layer surrounding the earth. Originally conceived by two people in the early 1900s, a Jesuit priest from France named, butcher his name still, Teilhard de Chardin. That's the best I've done, actually. And a Russian guy named Verdansky, I believe. They sort of simultaneously came up with the idea, which is an interesting historical fact, and how things come together at the same time from different places around the world. So Chris started working that probably around 2011. I met Andrea in the summer of 2012. She has a background in software and business and connecting the UK tourism industry using software and synergy between all the parts that make up the whole of the tourism industry. And she had a spiritual awakening in 2009 and started receiving guidance from her higher self. And so in 2012, I met Andrea, and then Chris got connected to us synchronistically. And January 10th, 2013, the three of us met in person for the first time. And Noomap was a little circle on a screen. And Andrea just knew from her background in software and her guidance and her intuition that Chris was onto something and that it was what she was looking for. She had created an online network for co-creation called Earth Star Network, ESN. And she knew she wanted a software because her passion is software and computers from her childhood on, and feminism as well as how that relates to the internet. So there's no coincidences or accidents here going on with our little group. And for the past 3 years, we've been on this journey to turn that little black dot and circle on the screen into Noomap, which is for what we call synergistic co-creation. And we've been inspired a lot by the work of Barbara Marx Hubbard and her just brilliant downloading and visioneering of co-creation and mapping solutions and goals and innovations. And she's got something called the 7 S's of co-creation, which are sort of our operating principles. We're a little bit radical. We know a lot of people talk about their values being transparency and honesty. And of course, we're pretty resonant with all those things, but our values are the 7 S's of co-creation, which are synergy and syntony and synchronicity and spontaneity, self-creativity, and supra-sex, as Barbara quoted, the fusion of genius to co-create rather than procreate. So that's how we work and live, and it's hard for a lot of people to believe and understand and get into, but we actually use synchronicity and spontaneity and syntony, which is alignment with the patterns of nature and your inner knowing for spontaneous right action. So a lot of people ask, what's our decision process? And we say, well, you don't really need to make decisions too much in a formal way when you're self-organizing through intuition and empowering and trusting everyone's gifts and things like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of prototyping going on. Of course, it's easier said than done when it comes to some decisions in the normal way of doing things. But that's where the future is going, and it's coming quicker, I think, than most people probably imagine.
Brett, you're such a great voice for this collective that you guys have going. And I'd like to just toss in here a second. As I travel and I teach, I meet people everywhere, particularly the younger generations. And I say younger, I mean, I say like below 50 or something like that. You know, we have these, but I think we have these waves of awakened. UCLA has done studies showing the younger generations are coming in with more turned on or awakened DNA. So it's in my book, 21st Century Superhuman. So it's, you know, it's not unusual, but as I travel and teach, groups, you know, young people will come up to me, you know, of all different age groups, and just some of them will just cry and say, you know, I didn't come here to be part of this old matrix or this old system, where there's a very large collective who have bought into not living according to their passion, not using their ultimate creativity. And I think what we're in the middle of right now is kind of a quiet revolution and awakening. And what I encourage people to do is follow their bliss, listen to their heart, breathe and smile. And you guys are a living, breathing, you know, gathering of a group of people who've each chosen to do that individually, and now you're doing it together. And I just applaud you for that and honor you. And I say, this is how we are going to bring forth the qualities, the tools, the wisdom, the action that will carry us into a new form of living beyond that old matrix, we can call it, a system where people kind of conform to a lot of things in exchange for money or the resources to survive. And what we're talking about right now, and why I really started this series of shows that I'm doing, is this conversation about the true abundance is flowing from source all the time, through us, into us, because of us. And as we open ourselves to that, we begin opening ourselves to the real currency, which is this current of brilliance, of life force, of empowerment, of creativity. And through accessing those things as individuals, allowing ourselves to breathe and smile, to listen to our heart and feel the feelings that really drive us, and then begin living according to our bliss. As each of you have done, it sounds like Chris kind of stepped out of a really promising career, sort of, but he had the realization the tools and skills that he had could possibly be better applied to the future of humanity being more positive and more viable than was being developed in the old system. So you're so eloquent at this. Thank you so much for just sharing with us today, because it's really, this is inspiring to our minds and hearts to even hear your story. And so I'm excited for you to tell us more, and to encourage anyone listening to this to begin noticing who you are, how you really operate. Where is your bliss? Where is your joy? Where are your real skills? And then as we begin developing those, other people show up who are in resonance with us. I mean, I see that all the time in my life. So anyway, not to digress too far, but I just wanted to draw in the greater conversation surrounding what you are sharing with us, and invite you to go ahead. I know you guys just were at a big a group convention or meeting in Paris. Do you want to tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing, though. I don't see it as a digression. I know you've done a lot of shows and I haven't seen them all, but it's good for people to hear about your experience too, and get your perspective. I like that. So thank you. And please continue sharing some, or asking more questions or things like that. I'll weave in a couple different communities and projects as well while I speak, that have influenced us and that we have a lot of admiration for, or that we look to for inspiration or support. I'm also just really quickly going to read the full "Follow Your Bliss" quote, because Joseph Campbell is a hero of mine. And most people hear that "Follow Your Bliss" and they haven't really actually heard the whole quote.
Absolutely.
Which I think is,
yeah, go.
yeah,
That's
which
great.
I think is a fabulous quote, and it'd be great just to have it on audio. And I've never read it out loud and had it on audio, so I'm kind of excited. Joseph Campbell is a real Renaissance man and an incredible person, and I highly recommend people reading his biography. I think it's called Man on Fire or something like that. It's an amazing life story. So the original quote was, "Follow your bliss. If you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while waiting for you. And the life you ought to be living is the one you are living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in the field of your bliss, and they open the doors to you. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. If you follow your bliss, doors will open for you that wouldn't have opened for anyone else."
Awesome. That is
Just
awesome.
You know, most people hear follow your bliss and they start arguing mentally and logically, how am I going to do that? How am I going to make money? And how am I going to take care of my family? And it's much deeper. As I just read, it's about synchronicity and being aligned with who you truly are.
Yeah, I quote the short version of that in the book, which is follow your bliss and doors will open where there were only walls before. That's kind of the shortened version of it. And it's definitely, absolutely. I mean, and if we have some of those kind of memes that are reminding us, it can really help us access that place in ourselves as well.
Yeah, I'm really big on having veneration. I use the word for the lineages in history. I don't like the idea that history, we're a slave to history. That's just kind of passé and old news, and we'll repeat it and all that. But I think it's important, especially for people that are interested in what's called like the continuity of consciousness and understanding the shoulders of giants that we all stand upon. And really, I don't even know if any idea is original, to go as far as to say that, because everything in our lexicon and our vocabulary is really built upon words and ideas that come before. It's just a natural thing. It's not really hierarchical or anything. It's just nature. So, and speaking of DNA, I'll plug our good friends, the Gene Keys. If you haven't looked into that yet, I recommend everyone checking out something called the Gene Keys. Veneration is one of my spheres. It's sort of like the I Ching and astrology put together, and you get these 11 spheres that are your life path. And it comes out 3 times in my 11 charts. So I'm big on this veneration's 3 levels. The Siddhic level is like your highest expression. The middle level of each key is the gift frequency. So for me, it's preservation in this veneration key. So preservation is taking the best of what's come before and then building on that. So it's really alive for me to take what I see as the best of what's come before and then add the new to it. And veneration is celebrating your place in that place, in that space, and understanding.
When you talk about the Gene Keys, are you talking about from Human Design?
Yeah, it came from Human Design. Richard Rudd, who's downloaded this amazing work and book.
Right.
There's a whole society now and all sorts of amazing people.
Yeah, I was wondering how people would access that. I actually have the book. I need to dig it out. But even your elucidating it is like, I mean, I think I read mine, a couple of years ago, but I didn't really know how to take it to the next level. So I love your elucidation of that. Yeah,
genekeys.com gives you a free profile, but you really need the book to accompany that. It's only like $20. It's the best $20 I ever spent.
Nice.
In personal growth or whatnot. It's a big fat book, and it's the art of contemplation. So you can use it like an I Ching. You don't have to read it in an order or something. You can basically have a question for yourself, open it up, and probably find something. And it's one of those things that's the right time. Our friend Sherry Herndon, who, by the way, I want to mention is part of the core Noomap group. She's amazing, unbelievable person, and she calls it, I think, oh boy, if I get it right, a term of something, meaning like a thing for our times.
Nice.
The Gene Keys. It's like this, I don't know. I think of like the Emerald Tablet or something like that for our time.
Nice.
I mean, it's amazing how much resonance it has for people. So like, I'll just say one more thing quick. The first sphere in this outer activation sequence in your life is called life's work. And just as an example, I had written a statement called Spiritual Philanthropy in the summer of 2012 about investing in consciousness and bringing the feminine back in, and that we all have gifts to share. And can you invest your whole self into consciousness rather than a particular business plan or outcome or timeline? Because if we are all trusted and empowered with resources and gifts, we're going to deliver. Chris and Andrea are going to build a Noomap. They're going to build a particle accelerator for consciousness. They're going to build a warp drive for consciousness if they're just empowered to do that. They don't need to prove anything or explain how. It's kind of like when you were a kid in math class and you were good at math and they said, well, how did you arrive at that equation? And it's like, well, I don't know how, I just know how to do it. So I wrote this thing about spiritual philanthropy, and then I found the Gene Keys the next year, and my life's work, the gift frequency, is called aspiration, and it's all about the flow of energy and money working together. So, I mean, I couldn't believe that it was affirming in that sense, but the Gene Keys book doesn't seem to be a mistake for most people when you read it. So
that is beautiful. And, you know, we're in this time too, where we do have, I mean, through the internet, through the levels of communication that we have, probably the most coalescing of human brilliance, you know, the capability of that ever in history, I would think. Maybe there's been peaks in history where such things existed, but I think with his ability to continually exchange ideas and expand each other's ideas, you know, I want to just keep having you on here because you are just such a great, you know, expresser of these things that we're moving into. I love it. It's just really beautiful. So,
well, I have to say, Cary, you've given me an opportunity to really express something and do something that's been in me for a long time. I guess it's kind of sublime and simple just to say thank you. And it's kind of sublime, but you'll see, I guess, over the next weeks or months or years, what part you played for me anyway. I mean, in doing this, because I consider myself more of on our team, I'm learning a lot about technology and the interface between that and spirituality and tech, consciousness and whatnot. But my real passion is movies and storytelling and transmitting the energy of the people I meet, not just writing about it, but like you, traveling, so I can say, yes, I spent time with this person or that community, rather than I just know them through Facebook or something like that. So it's really important for me to be that voice. And again, with the Veneration, you know, I was really inspired by people like Hunter S. Thompson and the Beatniks and all that. So the ability to be a voice of a story or a paradigm or a generation, at least one voice, I mean, is really exciting for me and fun and gratifying. So
awesome.
I'm really happy to be sharing in this manner, just to let everyone know the tech stuff I can talk a little bit about and I'll get into, and you know, the other team members will be around to share with you. And my role, like you're saying, is to share, I believe, share about what's happening and be a little bit of a on the story.
Yes.
So I'm just going to also, in the mode of veneration, read another thing before I go into Paris. I was inspired in 2011 by a guy named Michael Skye. I was in a deep depression, which is something we should talk about at some point. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 19. I had what's called the psychotic episode when I was 19. I'm 41 now. And I had just many, many rough years with all that. And I kind of woke up again in 2011 by this guy, Michael Skye, and his friend Sean Madden. And they had a term called the visionary troubadour. And this is sort of how I see myself for Noomap, as the visionary troubadour. And the words I have here from, I believe it's Michael's book, is the visionary troubadour lives abundantly with ease in an economy of gifting and receiving, in an ecosystem where all are cared for, where individuals and all of life are honored, often in paradise locations that others only dream they can visit on vacation someday. They belong to deep and rich, high-trust communities of generosity, often all around the world. They are always welcome. Visionary troubadours seldom pay for housing, travel, coaching, mentoring, education, and food. They live a life of rich connection, high adventure, and constant evolution. The world is their home. And this is a dream I have for everybody, really, on some level. Like you were talking about abundant resources and our gifts. Everyone, I hope, would have the opportunity to follow their bliss.
That is fantastic.
And I just read this again recently. I've been using the word visionary troubadour on my own for 3 or 4 years. And I went back and I was like, holy crap, these guys, this is where I got it from. It's like I forgot, you know, like where I had seen the term and I adapted it for myself. But then I went back and read that and I was like, why do I even try explaining it? I just need to quote that because it's so, for me, epically written.
That is fantastic. It really is. And it's true. And, you know, these are the things that in the old culture, someone might say, oh, you know, you can't make money doing that. Or, you know, there's this way of measuring things. Whereas this concept that we're moving into is when we follow our bliss, when we live our joy, there is this whole new paradigm that emerges, and a new matrix begins to form. If we can call it a matrix, we can call it a shape of the holographic.
I don't mind. I think a matrix is the word. I mean, generally speaking, matrix is just the word for a system.
Right.
An related system. So I personally don't have an issue with creating a new matrix. I think we'll probably always end up living in a matrix while we're humans, because we contextualize things, and we usually live and breathe and think by comparing and dualizing in a way. That's part of the experience. It seems that way. I mean,
yeah.
in unity conscious, none of this is relevant, and that's where we truly are in the moment anyway.
Nice.
But in projection, hologram thing, whatever the mystery is, we basically need to contextualize, I think, and make stories and metaphors in order to have the experience. So for me, a matrix is it's a good enough word for me.
Yeah. Well, just in light of time, why don't we, I really love everything we're talking about, and we will continue this conversation. I see us periodically just doing more of these, because I think getting this thought out to people is really helpful to kind of enrich the soil of our consciousness here and be able to grow some good plants. So, tell us a little bit about what you guys have been doing on the technical end and meeting with other technical wizards that are bringing forth these things around the world.
So Noomap, as it's been conceived over the past few years, is all about creating a synergy engine, which Barbara Marx Hubbard originally talked about on some level. It was about mapping perceptions. That could be a resource, a skill, a vision, an intention, a material item. Any object of perception could be mapped as a holon, a circle, a piece of information, and then within that piece of information, other pieces of information is where you get the holonic and fractal nature of interconnection. And it was meant to have a central database, not centralized as in controlled, but a central database, so we could get into this silo busting mode, which is really what Ethereum and the new internet is going to be about. We've got to get out of these silos.
And when you say silo, I mean, it's really an obvious visual to me, but it kind of means that each entity or each group online is kind of their own, they're just unto themselves. So you think of a silo, that's this tall, skinny thing, but they're not reaching out, being interlaced with everybody else.
Yeah, and the real key issue, and again, Andrea, Nico, and Chris are more elegant, but I'll try to talk very quickly about it. It's like people are always going to have the choice of whether to engage in things. But the issue is the internet, the way it was designed, and it was brilliant for what it was, but all things must evolve, obviously, is that the databases are what's siloing things. So like Facebook has a database, and of course they need to sell it for marketing purposes. And Google has a database. And then every little website, even like your website and the intentional community website and the Eco Village website, they all have their actual own databases. So they're siloed by the actual architecture of the internet at the level it was at when it was created. So it's not even about at this level, like, do I choose to share this information? It's like the very DNA and structure of the internet is prohibiting synergy and transparency. On a general level, again, the other guys could talk more elegantly about it, but that's a big part of the silo issue. The databases can't talk to each other. So like I'm only searching the Shift network, when I search for something, and I can't synergize or search between the Shift network and this network. So there's a big challenge there, and what we perceive as separation thinking is being reflected in the technology that was created, because it was basically created out of a Newtonian paradigm and a militaristic and all that empirical paradigm, the quantization of the self. This is the whole thing, right? We quantify everything. It's a useful tool to quantify things and classify things, but when you confuse the map with the territory or build the whole system on quantification, you get where we're at now.
Fantastic.
So Noomap was about silo busting. It was about synergy. It was about co-creation, and it was about resource sharing with the option to use cryptocurrency, fiat currency, or just simply unconditional gifting and all that. And it was a meta level type system. How can we get everyone together, working together? And recently we've got a new team member named Nico, and he's passionate about blockchain and Ethereum, which was a real, as Nico would say, a big kick for us. Chris couldn't get into blockchain last year. We couldn't find the right person, to connect with him to explain it in a way that would excite him or see the benefits of it and all that. So Nico's on the team now, and That was a
And,
big
and
break for us.
let's just mention, Brett, that blockchain is a type of mechanism, internet mechanism, which is what brought forth Bitcoin. People will have a connection to that, and it's a kind of a repetitive, secure system. I mean, is that what we can?
Well, we'll get Nico on to come on share because he does a really good job of explaining it for the
But
average
just
person,
in general,
like
so
myself.
people have some link to what is blockchain.
It basically is an internet technology that came from Bitcoin. And on a simple level, it's just a ledger of like debit and credit, receipt, and it's transparent and everyone has access to it. So it took out the middleman was the big thing. No, you didn't need a bank or any type of person to say, yes, this transaction went through, and then it goes from me to you. It's peer to peer. It goes straight to each other. And if I send you $10, you get $10, and everyone on the blockchain has that record, so it's verifiable. It's transparent. Those are the key points. It was an account ledger, really, type of thing that was powerful. Now, for me, I never cared about Bitcoin because for me, people were hoarding it just like they hoard money. I didn't see originally like, okay, great, there's a new technology, but people are just using it in the same way they were using capitalism. And again, this is a very general layperson's view, understanding. What Ethereum has done is taken Bitcoin, i.e. blockchain technology, and made it so you can exchange, like you can run applications, computer code. Instead of exchanging just Bitcoins in a ledger of debit credit, it's like you perform applications through the cloud, like through this etheric, place. And it's basically a virtual global computer that can run applications. So with Nico on the team, and Chris has been thinking this the whole time really, Noomap is looking to expand and become an operating system for the global virtual computer, where Noomap, the synergy engine, et cetera, is one application of an operating system that is holonic and fractal. That's like a whole operating, because the global computer is going to need an operating system. And we hope this is one of many. So our current goal is to write a white paper, Chris, Andrea, and Nico, about our vision for that, and perhaps put a funding proposal into the DAO, which has just raised $160 million. The DAO is a blockchain Ethereum thing. I won't get too far into that, but that's the bigger vision. We realized what we were going for, where Noomap is kind of now limited in that it's an application of that. And it's pretty exciting because, I mean, that's where you get this decentralized, nobody can own it. If every computer but one in the whole world crashed, there would still be a recollection of the whole entire blockchain system on the last computer, because it's holographic in that sense, because it's a virtual computer. And again, the other guys will help you have a better understanding of that. So that's what we're up to as far as Noomap. We're also considering forking the code of the Noomap prototype now as it is, which is at the state it's at, sort of like a collaborative fractal mapping tool that could also be for social networking and all the things we're envisioning. But we would like to hand that off in a synergistic development license to different people so they can run with it and find funding in their own teams. And basically the agreement of a synergy license, rather than a free open source where you can do anything, is that people who have licenses must give their code back to the community. And if you use it for commercial purposes, you have to give some back to the community and for the core code and things like that. So we see that as one way to also help support us. We haven't had any funding really for our group beyond something a little bit. And it feels time to sort of let go of something and move into this bigger space. So that's what we're looking at now. We have some friends already who are interested in using the mapping part of Noomap for the National Health System in Bristol in the UK, which is interesting. That's why, again, I mentioned this integral thing. We're not afraid to work with people as long as that's in integrity with some of our key values, like sharing and synergy. And we're going to trust the people in our field who want to be those bridges into these different worlds. And we think that's probably a good idea, and it frees us up a little bit to go for this even bigger vision that we're working on.
Nice. Just a couple words on what took place in Paris.
So in Paris, we went to something called OuiShare Fest. It's based on and all due respect to them, if I foul this up, I'm sorry. It's based on the collaborative and sharing economy. So they had a diverse, interesting crowd of speakers and people attending, from blockchain people, the Noomap people. There was someone there from Uber, someone there from Airbnb, I believe. other people that are in corporate and not in corporate. So it's a pretty diverse crowd. We had a really good time. We did our networking thing and met interesting people. I met a lot of filmmakers, which is the big thing for me to move into as well on a personal level. With this storytelling and film is my real biggest passion. So I want to make movies, and obviously telling the story of what's happening is really super important. So that was really successful for us. I mean, there was the collaborative and sharing economy is a little bit passe for us. I talk about a holographic economy since 2012, which is just simple. If we're all actually one and we want to treat each other the way we want to be treated, then the economy should be holographic. I have what you have, and you have what I have, and we can share and still be unique individuals. And it doesn't mean everyone sleeps in my own house. It just means we share what we have, and there's so much abundance. Everyone can have a home. Everyone can live and have their own vehicle or something like that. I mean, so we had a really good time, and it was fruitful, and hopefully we'll be connecting with the OuiShare people who put on an amazing event, really coordinated with their technology, the scheduling of the event and the app and their website. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Totally impressed and inspired with the way they organize that. And we'll be living in Rotterdam for the next 6 months. There is a huge building. There's a nonprofit here called the Veneration Foundation, who have been some of our champions of Noomap, and we're part of their community, and they're ours. They've got a huge building that was formerly an elderly care home. It's 11,000 square meters with residential living zone, industrial kitchen, office space, 5 floors, 3 floors, just insanity. So we have 6 months basically to live in this building. We're sort of building sitting in hopes that we can raise the funding to buy it and turn it into what we would call Synergy Hub, which would be a prototype in a network of Synergy Hubs that are both virtual and physical. I guess you could say it's sort of like the dream would be Burning Man meets Impact Hub meets, something that no one has ever even seen yet. I guess the operating system there would be Noomap and co-creation and the wheel of co-creation and spiral dynamics and integrating all these beautiful things so people can show up. And our dream of Synergy Hub is to be a microcosm of the world we want to see. And the world we want to see is a gift civilization of sharing and gifting and everyone shining and uniqueness and unity and diversity and all those good things that we all kind of like and excited about. And can we make that happen in the Synergy Hub with 100 people or 200 people or 50 people where we all share our intellectual property and become abundant and help other people fund their projects and themselves, and people can live there and visit and all that. So that's what we're up to. And we should definitely have an episode about that itself with some of the people from United Earth and Maestron and incredible people. Cary, you definitely need to come out to Rotterdam this summer or September, whatever.
I'll tell you what, I'm stoked. Everything you're talking about is so fantastic. I know I've had one friend who travels, Barnaby, he wrote Live Free, and he talks about, I think both in New York and LA, he's participated in a really big building like that, but where they have little office cubicles and you can just rent, pay rent like you're in a hostel or something, and you rent your little cubicle when you're in that location. And I could see even having something like that as a piece in your building where people can be coming and going who are conscious and wanting to participate in the thought energy. But fantastic.
We're going to start there, Cary. But the goal is to buy the damn building.
Yeah.
Make it energy neutral and food abundant. And therefore people could just come and basically rent a space for free because they're following their passion. They don't have to always think of how am I going to afford it, because the collective itself is such value in this building. I mean, Noomap alone in a money world could eventually help produce revenue. I mean, there's so many innovations with the wheel of co-creation energy that we're okay right now with entrepreneurs with integrity monetizing that, so we can get the flow going to just help people until a gift economy, to me, just so people should be aware, includes money until it doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the most evil thing in the world. I know how much karma is around it, and it's like you were saying, before the call, it's hard for all of us. I'm very much had issues and a hard time with my mental health background, never had a real job or real skills that I could, just go out and work. My wife
cancel
Andrea.
that reel. Let's just take that reel and put it somewhere else, because
Thank you.
because I think some mental health issues come from us being so conflicted in a culture where we can't see how can we express who we are and participate as a really living being, and because there's something in us that so much doesn't want to be part of just being a little rat on a wheel every day. Let me just say this though. And this is my dream with Virtual Earth Village, which is my idea for a hub, a global hub, where we're literally, people are just, we have rooms where we can meet and share, but also people are reporting, they're sharing videos, and this is what we're doing here, and this is what we've accomplished, and then it becomes inspiring to others. And what I have, I've been around groups of people, and I've been a delegate for various things the last couple of years, kind of waiting for some of this global humanitarian funding to come forward, which is sort of one layer under the old economic system, the old governmental system. And who knows if it will move and when. And at the same time, finally one day I just said, I'm tired of sitting around with people drooling, waiting for the money to come. Instead, I'm going to start putting Virtual Earth Village into action right now. I was just talking to somebody here who's been running what you would call a church, but she's wanting to turn that into a community hub. So I sat there with her and mind mapped yesterday morning, how would we do that? And she's got the money to potentially buy a piece of property that could be a camp, and then, so each one of us that starts one of these hubs, I think there are people who have been very invested in the monetary system, that are millionaires and billionaires and, corporate entities that have these huge amounts of funds flowing through them. And what I'm hearing through the grapevine now is a lot of these people are saying, I know the system isn't going to last forever. Let me start contributing some of this excess that I have to build these new things that are coming forward. And I think you're right on with that. I think the idea of raising the funds to purchase that building and then have it be a creation hub, and then that becomes a model. Like, you're not just doing it for you. You're doing it as a model, and then they can do the same thing in Tokyo, and they can do the same thing in, you can just pick places around the world where someone is willing, somebody may have a building and say, hey man, I want to.
Many people have buildings, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and people have buildings that are.
We just need hot water and healthy place,
Exactly. And, there's a lot of cities now where you can buy a house for $100 where.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we talk about, permaculture or building, aquaponics walls where you can literally grow your food, and then you even have enough excess that you can share with the surrounding community. Ways to build these hubs with infrastructure that already exists, and converting that infrastructure into a living, breathing, creative, interactive process for people and for the community around, and then to be models. Because what we're going to do with a hub like Virtual Earth Village, which I'm wanting to develop, and I envision potentially it being with what you guys are doing, but, and we'll see, but we will activate each other as a human culture. As each person steps forward and says, I'm going to breathe and smile. I'm going to connect with my bliss. I am going to start living from my creativity, and it begins merging with other people. And then we have models that are working. How do we transition from a very dense, materialistic, monetary system that was set up only for profit, rather than for the good of the people, those are the rules of corporations. This corporation exists for profit. That's the purpose of it. And we have to show our stockholders that we're making profit, and that not the corporation exists for the good of the people. If we change that one thing in corporations, this corporation exists for the good of the people rather than for profit, we would repurpose the world so fast. And so I think the kind of hub you're talking about, these are going to be the things that are going to activate others, and people will go, oh, wow, I can do that here. Or I have a building sitting empty. I'd like to contribute to this movement. And then we begin bridging from this dense materialistic culture that has kind of been about I, me, make more money, accumulate it, which is not really operating in the truth of our being. And the truth of our being is this currency of creativity, of brilliance, of love that we have for one another and for our life here and for our planet. and be able to actualize those things. So I think you're absolutely right on.
It's beautiful. It's happening. I mean, for me, it's real because it's happening. So it's not a question of when or how.
Totally
it's like
exciting.
it's in the process, and like the more people that want to help and be part of it, the quicker it'll happen. Like get off your butt,
off
your butts, and like share some resources or fly to whatever you need to do. Like it's happening now. There's no more saying like when or how. It's like just find your tribe.
Right. Absolutely. Find your
money
tribe.
Just needs to flow. I mean, money just needs to flow, I believe, really. And it's in my gene, that aspiration gene key. Money, it's okay when it flows. It's always moving. It's always something. It just needs to keep flowing. The stagnation of it is really one of the key issues.
That's beautiful. I really like that. I'm going to use that. That's well said.
I want to share one more thing with you. There's a group called Village Lab, and they were part of a project as well called MetaCurrency. And again, I'm butchering this. I take the high level thing. I think it was Art Brock or Fernando that came up with it, and he called it currencies. So current, C-U-R-R-E-N-T space S-E-E-S. So currencies are what are really the flow of energy. What is your currency? So if the currency is co-creation and passion and sharing, that's the abundant, to me, what you're talking about with this flowing of abundant resources. What is our currency? Now, he doesn't use it as much anymore, I don't think, because he's moved on, but I'm still stuck on it. I'm like, I love that word. It's a currency. What is the currency? It's passion, it's sharing, it's vision, it's intention, it's dreaming. It's the currency is the eddy of where the locus of things are. It's a currency. So just to give them some shout outs for helping me along the journey. And
well, our friend Mike Upstone says, stand like a mountain, flow like a river. I know he knows you guys too. And from Lao Tzu. But if the current isn't flowing, and when you say current, what does your current see? What is the current of your life, the current of your intent, the current of your creativity? Is it flowing or is it not flowing? And what does it see that it wants to flow towards? What does it feel that it wants to flow towards?
Beautiful.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I know you guys are in the midst of a journey, and I just like to say to everyone out in our listening audience, please listen to your heart, breathe, smile, participate in the emerging, shifting matrix that we are now living in to give birth to a human culture founded in love, peace, and prosperity for all. All right.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Much love.
You too, Cary. Thank you.